Hey everybody, it's me, JJ Panzi, your smart apartment advisor here with the Real Management Company. Time for another weekly client call. It's good to see you all. Thanks for joining me. Not a lot to discuss today. Everything is sort of going along as normal. Today's the deadline to send the informational notices to any tenants who are claiming COVID-related reasons why they're unable to pay rent. And we have sent all of those tenants notices as required under AB 3088, passed by the California legislature at the end of last month. And so we're in compliance on that and ready to move forward with the necessary steps in October. And hopefully we'll go from receiving zero from a lot of, or those tenants who are still paying nothing, to being ready to start collect 25% for the next 5 months. And that will be due in January anyway. So we'll see what happens, but I don't anticipate it's going to be a hugely momentous shift in the way we're doing business. It's just a way of, explaining and formalizing the process for everybody. The only other news I really have to share with you is that the San Francisco Department of Building Inspection now has new guidelines on noise and utility interruptions for construction being done during the shelter in place. And as we all see and can imagine, the shelter in place is likely to continue for an extended period of time. And so we're going to be working this way for a while. And the bottom line of all of this is essentially understand that most of your residents are sheltering in place in their homes and working from home, and that your construction work, while still necessary, is going to have a larger impact on them than you might have otherwise expected or anticipated. And so communication is the key. And if you're going to have a utility shutoff that you expect to take more than 2 consecutive hours or more than 4 hours on and off throughout a day, let's say you're updating an apartment, you're installing a new scald guard in a shower, and the plumbers have to have the water off for a specific period of time, you have to give your tenants a 72-hour notice to let them know that they're not going to have water, and provide some bottled water in the lobby, for example, as a way of providing an alternate accommodation for them so that they have something while you're doing your work. You have to have other arrangements that are related to noise, but basically it is it's important to for property managers, property owners, to get a little bit deeper into the process with their contractors who are doing this kind of work, and understand when things like hardwood floors being refinished, or scraping on walls for a paint job, things like that, are going to take place. It's not the end of the world. It gives the Department of Building Inspection a guideline for dealing with complaints of noise related to construction during the shelter in place. And for us, we have pretty much all of our tenants, we have email addresses, and we communicate with them via email on a regular basis. And so it makes it easier for us in that regard to provide that information. But if you start a painting project in a larger building, for example, there's going to be a couple of weeks worth of prep work that is going to be an interruption, and it's going to be scraping and sanding and things like that. And you just have to let the tenants know these are the dates that we're expecting that to take place. We just recently started a painting project at a 7-unit building, and one of our newest tenant in the building that just moved in are a couple of nurses that work nights. And we have to paint the building, and we sort of have to do it now because we need to get it done before the rains come in the next couple of months. And it's unfortunate that it's going to have an extra hard impact on these specific tenants, but we're doing the best we can and trying to work something out with them. So we're going to, we can adjust the schedule a little bit to accommodate them if necessary, and if there's a way to do that. But right now, that's pretty much all there is. There's an enforcement procedure that involves the Department of Building Inspection kind of knowing what to do when they get one of these notices, because previously permitted work, or work that doesn't require a permit that's allowed, like a paint job, was the kind of thing that it could happen 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There weren't any restrictions on that because you're allowed to do construction work during the day. Now there's a few more requirements that go with that, and we understand and appreciate that. And that's where we're at. Nothing else really very interesting or unusual to report as a result of COVID. The rental market remains a little bit quiet, but strangely, I got a rental application yesterday and today from a couple moving here from North Carolina, saying that they were going to be able to work remotely from here, which was kind of had me scratching my head. So the next time we talk to them, I'm going to find out what is behind that. Why are you relocating to a more expensive place to shelter in place in a small apartment that's expensive? It's not the pattern that I've seen, but I'd be interested to hear what the story is. So I just had that conversation a few minutes ago. Didn't have a chance to get any follow up on that, but that's what we're finding, and the rental market remains very quiet. So that's kind of all I have for you, and I'm happy to open it up and have a larger conversation if people want to suggest a topic for discussion, or just have a chat. I'm happy to do that.
I've got another Zoom meeting, so I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
Thanks,
well, you're my most reliable source of comments. So that's it.
Yeah. It'll be quiet.
It'll be quiet. I'll call John, but I want to find out if you gave notice to my middle tenant.
Yes,
part of that.
We did.
So,
no,
okay,
we
good.
That tenant got that notice,
right.
and I don't think his circumstances have changed, but we've kept in touch with him.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Very good. Yeah, no problem. See you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Wow. And all right, who's got the cards? Let's play. We can just about play poker.
Let's play poker, right? Yeah.
We're just about
there's we've slowed down now to a point where we are 6 months into this. We're comfortable with this new normal. It's not fun, it's not pleasant, but we've adjusted to it. And a lot of the shenanigans that we might otherwise see are coming back again, and a lot of the difficulties that are fairly straightforward. People are adjusting to sheltering in place, being at home, keeping their distance, and I have to believe that this is a kind of a lull, and things are going to be a little harder as people realize how difficult the holidays are going to be when the weather isn't as good, and people realize that you're probably not going to be traveling to go home to see family. They're going to be staying home by themselves a lot of the time, and doing a lot of there's certainly Zoom fatigue. I mean, I luckily don't have too many lengthy Zoom calls during the day, but when you spend 4, 6, 8 hours on Zoom calls every day, like some people like my wife do, the very thought of spending your evening on a Zoom call with your friends to try to catch up is just not attractive at all. You'd rather just disconnect. And so unfortunately that's where I think a lot of people are at, and we may have more complaining and more problems and more difficulty, and we're just going to do our best to be as understanding as we can without letting the people who would take advantage of this situation to try to get an advantage on all of us get away with it. So it's unfortunate, but it's kind of the way that we have to proceed.
Gigi, I'm sorry for interrupting here. I just can't get out of my craw that did you say that your friends are unattractive, or that going on a Zoom call with them is unattractive?
Being on a Zoom call anymore is an unattractive option. Regardless of how attractive the people on either side of the Zoom call really are, the idea of being on Zoom calls anymore is just not fun. So yeah, or how nice their backgrounds happen to be. Their virtual or real life backgrounds happen to be. It's rough, and being stuck in your apartment or your house is not a terribly enjoyable thing.
I'm wondering at some point down the road when we're like next year, the end of
Yeah.
next year, whenever all these rents come due and all these IOUs are supposed to be paid and people can't pay it, it's going to be like chaos, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be.
No, I think
People,
the vast majority of people are going to, landlords and tenants alike are going to try to negotiate something. But it's, when this whole thing started, I felt like negotiating something, oh, well, for commercial tenants, we were understanding and saying, let's just split it. Like, I'll take a half the hit, you take half the hit, and we'll see if we can get by that way. But for the residential tenants, how do I negotiate? It's like trying to negotiate while you're trying to walk down a sand dune, trying to keep your balance. You're just going to keep falling over because the sand dune keeps falling away. And you're trying to, until you understand how big the problem really is, until the person's gotten a job back and they see it, you're probably going to take a 50% discount, and you're probably going to be, giving an interest-free loan for a long period of time. And you're probably going to not necessarily be looking at having vacancies as a result of it. But, if people make deals and people are, in a position where they've made a deal and then they're unable to or unwilling to honor whatever deal, whatever payment plan they've agreed to, they may very well find themselves actually facing an eviction or facing, financial ruin as a result of it. But for the most part, my experience has been that most people are doing the best they can and telling us the truth. Now, I've had recently an interaction with a tenant who may possibly have been lying to me about having lost her job. And so I'm doing some research to try and see if I can figure out what's really going on there. But there are ways to figure out whether somebody really lost their job, and I have a couple of ideas in that regard. And it's not an unpaid rent situation, but it's just an unfortunate situation. We have to be on our toes, looking out for the situations where people may be less than truthful. So.
JJ, from the top, from the much larger corporate managers, are you noticing any trends? Or are you getting any insight? You had mentioned a little bit about some of the much larger corporate locations that they're sharing some insights. Are you seeing that transition to the under 100 unit properties?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So you mentioned some of these trends. Was the Verity was one of them, or
Veritas?
Veritas was showing some trends as far as how they were handling the payment, or the I mean, I guess, are you saying that is it fair to say that they're dealing with the same exact thing that you're dealing with, or is it because of their scale, are they doing things a little bit differently?
Well, okay, so I think what you're referring to was Veritas had been saying that they were offering something like 50% forgiveness with the rest of it paid in installments over 12 months, something like that.
That's
and
right. Was there any other trend that you noticed that they were doing that you were thinking about?
Well, mercifully for everybody, I think they've been out of the news for a little while. I don't particularly like seeing them in the news because it's never good, and I'm sure they don't like being in the news that much either. But they, that was part of a news article. I haven't heard them say anything more. Right now the severity of the issue is sort of limited as far as the number of people who are severely affected, and we're hanging on. I mean, we have a lot of tenants that are coming to us. I had someone write to me this morning and say, gee, I've been affected. My job has been bad. Maybe it would be mutually beneficial if you just lowered my rent by 25%. And I was like, perhaps you don't understand the meaning of the word mutual, because your rent is already 25 or 30% below market. So there is no mutuality in the benefit here. I don't understand what you're asking me for, but I don't think the answer is going to be yes. And you know, it's kind of amazing how people, you know, a lot of the people that I talk to on a regular basis, they really, you know, whatever their, you know, their area of expertise and knowledge is, it's very difficult sometimes. They don't understand a lot about our business, and educating them on what's going on is, you know, sometimes I don't even realize I'm going into a conversation with people with somebody who needs to be taught, and they're trying to, you know, they're trying to make a suggestion for, let's do this thing. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you can't, you know, you can't do it that way. It's not, it doesn't work that way. And now I realize that the misunderstanding we're having is that you don't understand and I have to explain it. And so, you know, that's a difficulty, you know, understanding the way real estate works, understanding the way insurance works, understanding the way that all these things happen. It's difficult sometimes to have those conversations.
They don't understand our fears about election day either, what's coming.
Yeah. Well, and that's more than I think I've ever seen in the past. I think a lot of people are holding their breath, and you know, rightfully so. We're 30 days out from, you know, I think it's going to be a pretty, regardless of the outcome, I think it's going to be a seismic event. You know, no matter what happens with this, it's going to be dramatic for everybody. And we're going to, you know, we could go into another period of civil unrest like we had earlier this summer as a result of this election. It's frightening. And Prop 21 and all the taxes that are on the ballot and all of that, you know, I think it's going to be a challenge to see, you know, see past it. But hopefully by next year we'll know where we sit. So,
Well,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If anybody else has questions, I'm happy to stick around. Otherwise, I think it's okay to wrap up a little early. And next week, I'll have preliminary rent data and a little bit more updates on where we're at legally. Hopefully, we'll have Denise on for next week's call to give us the update on where we're at with the Preston legislation. And actually, I'll have some more information for you from the apartment association based on you know, what's going on in the industry by next week as well. So that'll be good. And we won't see Josh; he's going to be off for a couple more weeks. But we'll see him when he gets back. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. It was good seeing you. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Right.